Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. I think everything is working now. Sorry, I forgot to unmute my microphone. You guys want to see something really cool that I've been working on? Super excited about it, actually. Okay? So I've been working on this program called BookForge for a while, right? And it's basically just like a text-to-speech system because I read a lot of books, a lot, okay? And so a lot of them are out of print. Like, they're not available to the public anymore. I'm talking old World War II books written in 1931, that I have to convert from fractured German typography and, translate to English and then text to speech. Anyway, so I've been working with this new program, basically, called Orpheus, and I trained a model on my voice. Listen to what it sounds like here.
The Trump administration's Religious Liberty Commission has now issued its final report documenting how the government can defend religious liberty for everyone, and the main answer boils down to the chair of the group, Dan Patrick.
Not perfect, but holy shit, that's good, right? Oh my God, dude.
The separation of church and state is not in the Constitution. From this day forward, if anyone says that to you, and they're in public office or serving in any entity in any capacity, they have to point out exactly where you have violated the Constitution, because you have not. And from this day forward, that phrase should have no power over the people of all faiths ever again in America.
That is wildly good, right? That is my voice. That is my voice. And I trained that shit in 2 hours. That is really, really impressive.
He's lying, of course. As the saying goes, the word religion appears in the Constitution twice, and both times it's preceded by the word no. No one ever said the phrase separation of church and state appears in the Constitution.
That's so good. I'm so impressed by it. And there are other voices. These are just for my personal use. Like, I'm not selling this or whatever. Although it is available if you want to download it for free. owenmorgan.com/tools. I'm not sure if I published it. Hold on. I'm publishing it now. So it should be available to download if you want it in like 10 minutes once it finishes building. But anyway, you're kind of on your own with it. I don't offer any support because it's free, but holy shit, dude, that is impressive. And and here's another one that I really liked. He's
lying, of course. As the saying goes, the word religion appears in the Constitution twice, and both times it's preceded by the word no.
This is a voice from the book Deathstalker. It's my favorite book of all time ever. I love it so much. This is the narrator from that book.
No one ever said the phrase separation of church and state appears in the Constitution. Rather, it is that the First Amendment has long been interpreted to mean that the government cannot establish or endorse one religion over another, or religion over non-religion.
So fucking good, dude, right? Oh my God. I just trained my own models last night, and that's why I'm so impressed by it now. That is like... That's easily confused for real, right? You could totally confuse that for my real voice. Let me see. Then I have the narrator of the Third Reich series by Richard J. Evans. Again, this is not for sale. I'm just using it so that I can listen to books, is all. Old, out-of-print World War II books. And BookForge actually, like, you can see some of the books that I have in here. Black Sun, Aryan Cults, Esoteric Nazism, and the Politics of Identity. This is from, like, I don't know, decades and decades ago. This book here, Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Glaube, that was written by Reinhold Krauss in the 1960s. I think that one is still in print, technically. Yeah, a lot of good books in here. A lot of good books. Here's one that I was referring to specifically. This is The History of the German Christian Faith Movement. And this is from 1933 by Arnold Dannenman. And I use it as a primary source in my book, God's People. Anyway, I'm just really proud of this. I think it's really good. Like, so incredibly impressive how good it is, in one man's humble opinion. All right, let's talk about some of the stuff we have to talk about here. Let me just snag this video real fast. Gonna nab this and upload to my video library.
He's lying, of course. As the saying goes, the word religion appears in the Constitution twice, and both times it's preceded by the word no. No one ever said the phrase separation of church and state appears in the Constitution.
This is the narrator of the Third Reich series.
Rather, it's that the First Amendment has long been interpreted to mean that the government cannot establish or endorse one religion over another, or religion over non-religion.
Anyway, I'm just blown away by the quality, genuinely. Holy shit, dude. It is so good.
He's lying, of course. As the saying goes, the word religion appears in the Constitution twice, and both times it's preceded by the word no.
Anyway, all right. Sorry, just got sidetracked again. Let me rename this video. Rename. Governing body member Mark Sanderson. All right, awesome. Now let me just run the analysis on this and we'll watch it. Yeah, my mom came to visit. I think she's gone now. My mom came to visit to see the new baby, Hazel, Beta Force 0. Got to hang out with her, got to hold her. That was cool. And I didn't, like newborns want to be held 24/7, and that's really hard to accomplish. So it was nice to not be able, to be able to put her down, basically. Turned 57 a couple of weeks ago. Trust me, you're okay. As ideas for a negative henology based around Platonism without any good in it. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm waiting for this to process before I open it. It's just going to take another second. Hold on. All right. This is Mark Sanderson, governing body member of Jehovah's Witnesses. There's a video he just released titled Protect Yourself from Misinformation. Protect yourself from misinformation. Let's give it a watch, see what he has to say.
Our year text for 2023 is Psalm 119, 160, which says, "The very essence of your word is truth." Well, that's true. Jehovah has truly benefited us by giving us his precious word of truth. That word is the ultimate standard for what is true and what is false.
Interesting. Okay. So he says God's word is the ultimate source of what is true and what is false. And who interprets God's word exactly? Who is the final complete arbiter of what God's word says and means?
Well, now, today we live in what's often called the information age. Before, it may have taken many hours or even many days to find certain information. But now, using an internet search engine, after just a few minutes, or in some cases maybe after just a few seconds, we can have the information that we are seeking. But just
Yeah, and if that information is negative about our group, don't believe it.
of the information that we are seeking. But just because there's so much information available and it's so easy to access does not mean that that information is accurate, that it is reliable, or that it is based on truth. Interesting that in late 2016, Oxford dictionaries selected post-truth as the word of the year. Now, what does this word post-truth mean? Well, it's said that it is defined as relating to a situation in which people are more likely to accept an argument based on their emotions and beliefs rather than one based on facts.
No fucking shit. Really? People would do such a thing? Color me surprised. What do you think people do that about? Believe things based on their emotional state rather than reality. What types of what groups would encourage that kind of thing, I wonder?
Well, what does that mean? It means people choose to believe according to their feelings, their emotions, or according to their own personal beliefs. Well, that means it's very easy for people to be manipulated by false information, especially if that information tends to agree with their own personal ideas. Now, let me give you an example. Here are 3 headlines. Now, which one seems to be true to you? Drinking 3 cups of coffee a day may lead to stomach cancer. Here's the second. Regular coffee drinking linked to longevity and lower risk of stroke. Here's the third. Study says, drink tea instead of coffee and you'll avoid heart disease.
Which one of the 3 is real? Knowing Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm going to say that all 3 were actual real studies that maybe weren't even, like, maybe they were still in preprint and didn't finish going through peer review. I'm guessing that's the case here because they like to do little gotchas like that. Let's find out.
So, did any of these headlines seem to be true to you? Well, it's interesting that most people tend to believe the story that matches with their own personal ideas. So if you like drinking coffee, you might have chosen the story that says drinking coffee is good for you. And if you don't like drinking coffee, and perhaps you even think it's dangerous, well, then you might have chosen the story that says coffee drinking is dangerous. And if you prefer to drink some kind of tea instead of coffee, well, then you might have chosen the last story. Well, which one is true?
All 3 are real studies, right?
Well, actually, none of these headlines are real. I made them all up just to try to illustrate this simple point.
I knew it was going to be one or the other. Either they were all preprint or they were all fake.
That it's very easy to believe what we want to believe.
Well, I fully trust what's coming from the scientific peer-reviewed community, period. I think that's completely reasonable. Fully trust what's coming from peer-reviewed science. But in this case, this was coming from Jehovah's Witnesses, not peer-reviewed science. So,
well, how can the Bible benefit us? Obviously, the Bible does not touch on every matter that's involved in life, but it does give us principles that can help us to evaluate information so that we can discern whether something is true or it's false. Now, recently we had a very excellent article on the website entitled Protect Yourself from Misinformation. Let's consider a few of the Bible principles that were outlined in that article. Here's the first one. It's Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 15. It says, "The naive person believes every word, but the shrewd one ponders each step." Well, now, what does that mean? What does it mean he ponders each step? Well, one reference work says that this is a figure that means to be cautious, alert, or aware, with the sense of being careful not to be misled by untruth.
This coming from Jehovah's Witnesses, really. Like, what? They are famously bad about spreading misinformation.
Well, that's very, very good advice. There are so many false reports that are out in the world. In fact, now there's even something called deep fake videos. Have you heard about these?
Oh boy, yes. Oh shit, is there a deepfake thing going on right now? Are they deepfaking governing body members? I haven't seen anything about that on like the subreddit or anything. Hang on, 1 second. No, doesn't seem like there's any kind of campaign or anything about deepfakes with Jehovah's Witnesses at this immediate moment. It's just a generic warning, looks like.
So this is where they take video of a politician or perhaps some other well-known person, and using technology, they manipulate it so that the person seems to be saying something that they never, ever said.
Bro, I feel like there's a missed opportunity here, right? Should we start that campaign? Nah, I don't like deepfake stuff. I think it's kind of immoral to do that, but yeah. It would be funny, but I don't think we should do that, probably.
Frightening. We have to be truly careful that we do not accept information on face value, especially if it tends to support some personal idea that we have. Now let's go to the next principle. It's 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 21. 1 Thessalonians 5:21 says, "Make sure of all things, hold fast to what is fine." Well, how can we make sure that something is true? Well, here's two questions.
Well, I'll tell you how. You listen to Jehovah's Witnesses governing body, of course.
We can ask ourselves. Here's the first one. What is the source of this information? Be careful. A website might look very impressive. It might be beautifully formatted. It might have a very impressive name, but none of those things.
An impressive name, like Reuters, like AP News, like those types of websites, that may be an impressive name, but you don't trust them automatically, right? Okay? Especially if they're talking about Jehovah's Witnesses.
Make the information true. Here's a second one. Is the content current and accurate? See, look for dates in the information. Look for verifiable facts and strong evidence that the statements being made are actually true. But now be careful, because often the evidence that's provided for a certain statement may be a list of other websites that are all carrying the very same misinformation.
Hey, that's fair, actually. Totally. I've run across that as a problem.
So be cautious. What about statements like this? 3 out of 4 doctors support this product. What does that actually mean? See, for example, say it meant that they had surveyed 1 million doctors, and 750,000, or 3 out of 4, all agreed that this product was good and reliable. Well, that would be significant. But it could also mean that they talked to 8 doctors, and 6 of them agreed that the product was accurate or good. Are those two things the same?
Well, when we're talking about marketing, I don't think anybody should be trusting statements like that. But if we're talking about blood transfusions saving lives, I think it's safe to say that we can trust what doctors have to say on that. And not even doctors, okay? For that matter, why are we even looking at surveyed doctors? We should be looking at peer-reviewed studies, right? The medical consensus. Not even the medical consensus of doctors, but of researchers and stuff.
Well, obviously not. Make sure what you're actually reading. And then, too, what type of doctors were they? They're doctors of history, doctors of philosophy, doctors of law. There's even doctors of veterinary medicine.
Okay, you know what? Fine. I'll give you this. Marketing campaigns lie. Yes. Absolutely. I agree.
Be careful. Information can be packaged so that it sounds believable and authoritative. Make sure that you have the facts. Let's go to the third principle. It's Proverbs 28 and verse 26. Proverbs 28, verse 26 says, "Whoever trusts in his own heart is stupid." Wow, that's a pretty strong language, isn't it? But that's what the Bible says.
Wow. Okay. So now he's calling people stupid, honestly, if they're not following exactly what the governing body has to say. That's what this is about at the end of the day. You know, the governing body has flipped their position on all kinds of different things over the years. You know that they used to say that organ transplants were good, and then they said they were bad, and then they said they were good again. And for that 7-year period of time when they said they were bad, when they said you would inherit the person's personality, who the organ came from, when they said that for 7 years, Jehovah's Witnesses who needed organ transplants died. They died. There's no coming back from that. So I'm sorry if I'm a little suspicious of your misinformation, but you've earned that suspicion.
The website article says, "We tend to trust information that confirms what we want to believe." Well, that means we have to ask ourselves this question. Do I trust this information just because it's what I want to believe? Here's the fourth and last principle. It's Exodus chapter 23
I thought he said there were 3 principles.
and verse 1. It says there, "You must not spread a report that is not true." That's very strong language, isn't it? Very.
It is. You must not spread a report that's not true. You must not lie. Okay. I didn't feel like that was strong language, but fine.
Clear. What's the point? We have a very important responsibility not to share information unless we know for a certainty that it's true. In many cases, it's far better to hit the delete key than to hit the send button. Well, what did we learn this morning? God's word really is the source of truth. It is the standard of what is right and what is wrong.
Okay, but it's not. First of all, it's not the source of truth. There are things happening around us all the time that the Bible doesn't talk about, doesn't touch on. Vaccines, for example. Doesn't even mention vaccines. You know why? Because they didn't exist. You know what else didn't exist and wasn't mentioned in the Bible? Blood transfusions. It's not the ultimate source of truth because it doesn't contain anything about what's happening today. Not even possible to relate it back to anything that might reasonably be about that in the Bible. And you don't get your morality from the Bible. You just don't, okay? It's impossible to get your morality from the Bible because it contradicts itself every other chapter. Every moral precept it lays down is contradicted a chapter later. There is no objective moral basis to be found in the Bible. You are picking the things that you like and going with it, exactly as he's described in this entire video.
Of course, it doesn't touch on every subject in life,
No fucking shit.
but it gives us principles that we can use to discern whether information is true or whether it's false.
Those principles that you follow led you to getting countless people killed through banning blood transfusions. What am I supposed to do with that? You're obviously bastardizing it and twisting it out of proportion.
Jehovah truly teaches us to benefit ourselves by helping us to reject utterly misinformation and cling to what is true.
It's interesting that this is propaganda, obviously. That's what everything they put out is. It's all propaganda. And I find it really fascinating that this is the thing that they decided was important to focus on. It's almost like they're making a video directed at people, Jehovah's Witnesses, who may be getting sucked into the MAGA pipeline. It makes me wonder, are there Jehovah's Witnesses who are getting sucked into a political MAGA pipeline or something? Like, what's happening? Why did they put this out of all things? They used buzzwords that are commonly used in the MAGA movement, like almost to try to pull people out of it. That's fascinating. Anyway, yeah, tell me what you think about it in the comments. All right. There was another... What was it I wanted to hit? Wait a minute. I was going to hit Joel Webbon, but before that, what was it? Oh, that's right. I forgot. I wanted to cover Jehovah's Witnesses one more time. Hold on. Give me just a second here. Yeah. So I wrote this program called BookForge, and it basically lets me look at an analysis of a book. Yeah, this is how I do it. I couldn't remember. I just wanted to glance through Jehovah's Witnesses' life. How did it get here, by evolution or by creation? Nope, this is the wrong book. I wanted to see like some of the craziest moments in it. Where did I put the right one? Let me search. Oop. Oh my god, dude. There we go. Hold on. Wait a minute. Edit? Yes, the analysis is here. Analysis. Nah, I don't think I can feasibly do it. But there's some really crazy stuff in this book that I would really like to go through at some point. Maybe I'll read this book on air. Like, wait. Let me just listen for a second, see how.
How did it start? Life. How did it start?
That's rough. I'm going to clean this up. Just delete output. Delete TTS cache. I'm going to process it again. Skip translation. TTS. Orpheus. What? Yeah, I think I'm going to use the Deathstalker one. That'll work. And I'll start running it now. And yeah, that'll do. I don't need video. Cue. Start. That should do the trick. Let that run in the background. We'll come back to that later. There was another... Where the hell did I... Here. And then... Let me just pull up a video here. Yes.
that you face?
My favorite subject was science, because I learned facts about how things are connected.
Okay. Be courageous, not the inhabitants of Meros, but Jael? The fuck does that mean? Joy of disciple making, accept Jehovah's help. Evolution. There's got to be more than just one video on here. Was it designed? The owl's wing. Here we go. Let me download this. And was it designed? The circulatory system of a giraffe. Yes, I'm downloading this one too. Oh, perfect. Anything else? Here. Oh, dude, there's so much good shit on here about evolution.
Where do we come from is one of life's most basic questions.
Oh, this is top tier shit, bro. Was it designed? Bird colors that never fade. Grab that. Aw, heckers. I accidentally closed the link. Let me try that again. Let's see. What your peers say. Belief in God. My teen life. Is it reasonable to believe in God? Was it designed? How do ants avoid traffic jams? Remember, faithless people can acquire faith. Non-religious people. Hold on. Trying to pull this puppy up.
My family were non-practicing Catholics, so I was never taught to believe in God. I trusted my teachers more than...
Okay, yes. I'm gonna grab these videos. Drag them over to briefcase. Or not. It's dying on me. OMFG. 1 second.
Are your text for 2000?
Yep. I already got those, so drag these over. Or not. There it is. Okay. Now I'm going to run an analysis on all 5 of them. Okay. Apply. Let me just rename some of them real fast, so you guys can see what I'm doing here. Rename. This one doesn't have a date, so I think it's 2021. I'm just gonna put 2021-01-01. Rename. This is 2019, I think. 05-20, probably. Rename 2016-04-04. And this one 2022-05-01. Rename 2019-05-01. That works. All right, now let me process them. And we'll watch them real fast. Give it a second. It's processing now. So I found this evolution stuff on Jehovah's Witnesses website. I just want to kind of go through their position on evolution because it's fascinating. They have a bunch of videos on this. Was it designed?
The wings of an owl enable it to fly in virtual silence. How?
Magic. It was Jesus.
The feathers on the leading edge are
I'm sorry, let me fix this.
The feathers on the leading edge are serrated. One theory suggests that this helps break up the flow of air, reducing noise.
One theory suggests, okay.
Meanwhile, the trailing edge of the wing has a flexible fringe, further dispersing airflow. Nearly all remaining sound is then absorbed by the velvet-like feathers on the owl's wings. Scientists from Cambridge University are developing a coating mimicking this wing structure, for use on wind turbines. Early tests show that the coating significantly increases blade speed and efficiency.
Okay, so this video is intended to convince people.
While
I'm sorry, I'm trying to fix.
drastically reducing noise.
Trying to fix the audio. Give me just 1 second.
In the future, scientists hope.
Okay, that'll do. They're trying to convince people that God created this wing because they can't imagine a case in which it came about on its own. But there's a ton of evidence that evolution is just a fact. You want to believe that God did it through evolution? That's fine with me. But you cannot deny the fact that evolution is a reality. Okay, this happened. Period. It's like looking at a watch and saying, "Wow, this whole thing is so complicated. I don't understand how it could have come to be other than God created it." But we have the names of the spring manufacturers and the paint manufacturers, the people who machined the metal. We understand how this came to be. And yes, watches are incredible. But that doesn't mean that God created it because you don't understand how it could have come to be without a God intervening.
While drastically reducing noise. In the future, scientists hope similar coatings can be applied to a wide range of applications. So, what do you think? Did the owl's wing evolve? Or was it designed?
It evolved, okay? It evolved, period. Hang on. Let me just, I'm pulling up info on this. Yeah. Wow, this is a really short video, actually.
Owl's wing evolve? Or was it designed?
It evolved. Again, you want to say that God guided evolution? I have no problem with that. But you can't deny that it evolved, period. Now, regarding this specific thing, the owl's wing. Give me a second here. I'm reading this. 1 second. Yeah. So here's the actual story with the owl's wing. The features... give me a second here. Yeah, the features that they're describing on the owl's wing are modified versions of things that already existed. The leading edge comb that it was describing here, where did it describe that? Right here, I think, maybe?
The feathers on the leading edge are serrated. One theory suggests that this helps break up the flow of air.
Right, like the comb idea is a series of modified barbs or serrations which project up from the outermost primary feathers. Barbs are the ordinary building blocks of every feather. The trailing edge fringe is just barbs that don't hook together at the vene's edge, and the velvet is a downy surface texture. So nothing had to be invented from scratch. It's just an extension of the already existing structure of the owl's feather. This is not like one day owls just had this out of nowhere and it's inexplicable. Also, obviously, this is a graded trait, not all or nothing. They're kind of going with like an irreducible complexity angle with this, right? Like At some point, there has to be something that is irreducibly complex, right? No, that's not the case. We have understandings and explanations for how everything can break down. Another example of the irreducible complexity argument is the flagellum on bacteria's tails or whatever helps them propel forward. How could it have survived without flagella? We have a strong understanding of how all of this works, and we have for a very long time. I'm just taking a look through here. Krista LaPlane and Christopher Clark measured combs that they were referring to here on the owl. These? No, I'm sorry, not these. These right here. They measured these combs across 170 owl species and mapped them onto the phylogeny against diet and activity period. The result is that the fish-eating owls have narrower combs than owls eating other prey, and some, like the tawny fish owl and the insect-eating diurnal burrowing owl, have little to no comb at all. The fishing owls have no tactical need for silent flight because the sound doesn't travel well between air and water, and diurnal species similarly have little need for it since they're visible to prey anyway. The prediction was made in advance too, by the way, which is one of the qualities that you need for a theory to stand up, falsifiability. And they made a prediction ahead of time, and it stuck. Owls hunting prey that hear well, like mammals, should have increased silent flight features, and owls hunting prey that don't hear them coming, like fish, should have decreased features. And that's what the data shows, including greater comb widths in nocturnal versus diurnal owls. So they're taking a really cool feature and trying to claim it's evidence of God when we have a perfectly good explanation for how this works and how it came to be in the first place. Hold on, let me check some others here. 1 second. The giraffe. Let's give this a listen. This, just an editor's note, this may be moved to the front of the video, maybe. And maybe the owl thing to the end. I don't know. Just whatever seems right.
Where do we come from is one of life's most basic questions. And how we answer that question could, to a large extent, determine where we are going.
Okay. So you're gonna burn in hell. Well, not in Jehovah's Witnesses' case, I guess. So you're not gonna make it to paradise if you believe that we evolved from lower life forms. Got it. Okay. Go on.
Some people believe that life came about by evolution.
You mean accept. Some people accept. It's something you accept or reject because it's a fact claim. You believe in God. You accept or reject evolution.
And that no one deserves credit for it. Others believe in creation, but know little or nothing about the Creator. Still others may not give the question, where do we come from, any thought at all. In this video series, you will meet a variety of people who at one time believed in the evolution of life or had unclear ideas about how life came to be. Most of them had scientific or cultural backgrounds that formed the basis for their beliefs.
So you're telling me you found a bunch of scientists who accepted evolution as the fact that it is, and then they heard about Jehovah's Witnesses, and they suddenly didn't understand evolution anymore? Is that what you're telling me? Because once you understand how evolution works, it's a one-way street, okay? You don't go back to thinking that evolution didn't happen. At best, you think God guided it. And you're telling me you found people who claim that evolution isn't real, even though they actually understand how it works because they're scientists in the field, okay? Awesome.
Jehovah's Witnesses agree with the Bible verse at Romans 1:20, which says that God's invisible qualities are clearly seen from the world's creation onward, because they are perceived by the things made, even his eternal power and godship.
Yeah, I have no fucking clue what any of that meant, but fine.
In each video, you'll hear how someone came to agree with the existence of a creator.
Again, I have no problem. I'm sorry, what the fuck is happening? My audio died. Again, I have no problem with you accepting or... I'm sorry. Again, I have no problem with you believing that there's a creator along with this, but you absolutely cannot deny that evolution is real. What is going on with the audio? It's gone. What the fuck happened? We try closing and reopening briefcase. Hold on. Give me just a second. Try again.
Creator.
Yeah, there it is. It's working again. I don't know what happened. Whatever. Turn this up again.
God's invisible qualities are
Step back.
or cultural backgrounds that form the basis for their beliefs. Jehovah's Witnesses agree with the Bible verse at Romans 1:20, which says that God's invisible qualities are clearly seen from the world's creation onward, because they are perceived by the things made, even his eternal power and godship.
Fine. Whatever. Has no bearing on whether has no bearing on whether evolution is real. It is.
In each video, you'll hear how someone came to agree with the existence of a creator. And you'll learn something about what they observed that changed their thinking. The video series is entitled Viewpoints on the Origin of Life.
Okay, now I think this is one of the videos in it, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see what he has to say here.
My family were non-practicing Catholics.
No, this is different. I'm sorry. Hold on, let me find... What was it called? Hold on.
They observed that changed their thinking. The video series is entitled Viewpoints on the Origin of Life.
Hold on. Wow, there are like a lot of videos here. Let me grab this one and we'll watch the first one in the series. Hold on. Rename. I don't know when this was produced. Let me see if I can find out. This was from... It doesn't say when this is from. Really? You don't put dates on your shit? I think maybe 2021. And the title? Why We Have Faith in ... God's Existence. I love that they named it that. Why We Have Faith in ... God's Existence. Because they insert that ellipsis all over the place. The ellipsis basically means we removed something from this section of the quote, but we're giving you the quote altered anyway, and it's constant through their literature.
Our bodies are made up of trillions of cells.
I'm sorry, let me turn it down a bit because it's clipping. Try that again.
Our bodies are made up of trillions of cells. Yet each individual cell is a marvel of design and organization.
A marvel of design.
Inside our cells, biological processes signal specific proteins to assemble themselves into tracks called microtubules. Tiny molecular machines called kinesins then transport various components to different parts of the cell by walking along the tracks. From microscopic proteins into enormous galaxies. Our organized universe abounds with examples of elegant design.
Well, see, therein lies the problem. It doesn't have to be designed. For the questions to which we don't have answers yet, the correct answer is, I don't know. Not, a God did it, or I think that God came in and sneezed and here we all are, or whatever. That is not the correct answer. You can't just make something up and insert it where it feels it makes sense. Now, regarding what they said, hold on. Where did they say this? They say, did they, let's see. No. Never mind. We'll keep going.
As a mechanical design educator, I view even natural things from a design perspective. Mechanical design considers not only the individual components of a machine, but also how they interact.
Wait, who is this? Dr. George Zinsmeister, Professor Emeritus of Mechanical Engineering, University of Massachusetts, Amherst. Wow. Okay.
From this viewpoint, human vision is a magnificent example of design. For a single eye, the cornea, the iris, and the lens interact to focus an image on the retina. The light-sensitive cells of the retina, called photoreceptors, produce nerve signals. Signals from the rod and cone photoreceptors are transmitted by the optic nerve to the brain, where they are processed to produce a perceived image. Now, just imagine the multiplied complexity when two eyes interact.
Absolutely, except for the fact that eyes are really badly designed, as it turns out. Our retina is installed backwards. The photoreceptors face away from the light, so incoming light passes through a layer of nerves and blood vessels before hitting them. And that means we have a blind spot in in both of our eyes. Blind spots are in different locations, so they don't overlap, and it doesn't feel like there's a blind spot, but there's just a big black hole in your vision somewhere, and you don't even notice it, because your brain fills in the pattern. There are way better ways to design eyes than the way they're designed for humans. I think, don't octopode, is that what they're called? Don't octopode have way better eyes? The wiring has to punch back through the retina to reach the brain, which is why we have the blind spot. Cephalopods independently evolved a camera eye with the retina the right way around, no blind spot. Oh, yeah, and eyes obviously evolved independently dozens of times across the animal kingdom. 40 plus separate individual origins. It starts with a very small light sensor, basically, and kind of turns into a cup shape where light is shining in at one direction, and it kind of helps you figure out where the light is based on where it's shining in the cup. And eventually it gets a lens to focus the light, and so on and so forth. This is very well understood. Why did they pick this of all things? You know why? Because they don't expect Jehovah's Witnesses to come along and try to debunk it or understand it.
Particularly mind-boggling is the amount of information being constantly processed.
Hey, Times Square. Look, they blurred out all of the ads. That's really funny. Love Times Square. I'm from Manhattan. It is truly the heart of humanity. Awesome place to be.
By more than 130 million retinal receptors, and then transmitted through the 1.2 million nerve fibers of the optic nerve to the brain. To me, the sheer complexity of how all these components flawlessly interact is evidence of a superior designer.
But it's not. Because the designs are ridiculous and awful. I mean, look at the giraffe, for example. There's a laryngeal nerve that goes from your brain to your larynx. And when we were fish, well, we still are fish, but that's complicated. When we were, what is it, non-bony fish, I guess? Cartilaginous fish? I'm not sure what the term is. Anyway, when we were still swimming in the ocean, there was no, it was just a straight shot from the brain to the larynx or whatever. But when we kind of evolved over long periods of time and our ancestors crawled up out of the oceans, that laryngeal nerve was wrapped around our aorta in our heart. All mammals have this, I believe. And so it has to go from the brain down through our heart, back up into our neck. And that same bad design can be found in giraffes even. The laryngeal nerve goes all the way from a giraffe's brain to its heart, back up its neck to its larynx. Absurd to claim that that's a good design. Absurd.
Some disagree. They propose that the eye evolved from a light-sensitive patch in some ancestral creature through small random changes.
That's correct.
I find the proposed process unrealistic.
Okay, well, then you're an idiot. I'm sorry. That's just what it is. Also, not random changes. They like to frame this in a specific way. The changes are random. The selection pressures for advantageous changes are not random.
Unlike design, it is unplanned and without a goal. We are asked to imagine that...
Well, that's not true. The goal is survival and reproduction, obviously. The more reproduction there is, the better this species is going to survive.
It is unplanned and without a goal. We are asked to imagine that a complex system can develop without direction, while in the natural world things tend to become disorganized. But consider something even more mind-boggling. The design of the eye, the optic nerve and brain, and how they function and interact are completely documented in our DNA. In fact, our DNA contains all of the instructions for building an entire human body.
Okay.
While science relies only on physical explanations, many individual scientists reason that highly ordered natural systems are evidence of a designer.
No. No reasonable scientist argues that any of this is evidence for a designer. And almost no scientist, period, claims that this is purely the result of a designer and there was no evolutionary process. Biologists, I would go as far as to say not one biologist who went through a legitimate degree program and got a legitimate degree in biology believes that. Not one. I'm sure, there's probably one that works for the Discovery Institute somewhere.
My personal conclusion is that there is a God who is revealed in the magnificent designs of nature.
Genuinely have no problem with that, but when you start claiming evolution is fake, I have a problem now. Absurd. I may or may not, just an editing note, I may or may not keep the owl clip. I may or may not keep the opener where he was talking. I think that's probably fine to keep. But that last clip was pretty good. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. Absolutely absurd, dude. I didn't know they had a whole series on this. I'm going to have to cover this with Forrest Valkai. I asked him if he'd come on my channel a while back, and I've been looking for something to talk about with him. So that could be good. How long is this one? 2 minutes? Let me see. Hold on. Wait a minute. What's this? 2025 governing body update. I'm grabbing this. Oh, yes. Oh, this looks good, dude. Give me a minute. I'm gonna grab this. 1 second. Yeah. Okay. We got an unhappy baby. She's yelling. She's mad. She's crying, she's upset. And there's nothing anybody can do to fix it. She's just mad. Okay. This is governing body update from Jehovah's Witnesses, where they're talking smack about atheists. So let's hear what they have to say here.
Today, we're going to talk about secular education. Are you interested?
Oh, yes. So interested.
Good. But first, here are a few updates. Since our last report, 8 special conventions.
All right, yeah, we're jumping forward. Don't care.
As we reflect on these happy one, the theme is eternal happiness. Isn't that nice?
Super nice.
Also, we're pleased to inform you that next year, 19 international conventions will be held in 17 countries. In early September, details will be provided.
Okay, I'm skipping through this. I don't know where it starts yet.
Can you think of a more appropriate title than that? End to War. September, you can make good use of that. If you do, could you start the...
All right, let me just search the transcript for where it starts. Give me a second here. Hold on. More info. Wait. I ran an analysis on this. Let me just pull it up again, and it should show. Chapters. Guidance on secular education. Here we go. One second. I'm sorry. Okay. All right.
How can we make good decisions when considering additional education? Each adult Christian, and in the case of minor children, each family head, should prayerfully consider Bible principles and the unique factors involved with a certain educational program before making the decision.
So this is...
And
sorry.
while an elder...
So this is about going to college, secular education, right? 2025. This is not that long ago when they put this out. Jehovah's Witnesses like to claim that their position on higher education is not that bad. Let's see what they say here.
Before making the decision. And while an elder or a mature friend may discuss with us the pros and cons about obtaining additional education, no Christian, including the elders, should judge a fellow Christian's personal decision on this matter. Additional education has advantages and disadvantages.
There's a disadvantage to going to college. Aside from the cost, what's the disadvantage to learning more information?
What can help you to make a wise decision? We find a good principle at Proverbs 14:15. It says in part, "The shrewd one ponders each step,
Dude, they used this exact same verse in another video they just released on detecting or identifying misinformation. Interesting.
Pray about it. I'm going to repeat that. Pray about it. If you're a young person, talk about it with your parents. Then consider the following steps. First, analyze your motives. Second, analyze what the education would involve. Let's discuss these one at a time.
Please.
First, analyze your motives. Ask yourself, why do I want this education? Many people pursue education so they can get a job that they'll enjoy, one that pays better or has better hours.
But, of course, you're supposed to be focused on Jehovah's kingdom over all else, right? So,
are these motives wrong? Not necessarily. For a Christian, this could allow him to pioneer.
Not necessarily. Pursuing education for higher pay is not necessarily wrong. Are you shitting me right now?
Or share in other types of full-time service. However, the Bible warns us of the dangers of materialism or seeking security in this system of things. If your motive is to gain wealth or prestige, not only might you be left feeling empty, but you could also drift away from Jehovah.
Wouldn't want that.
Nothing, I'm going to repeat this, nothing should be more important to us than serving Jehovah. So view any additional education as a way to help you support yourself while you focus your life on serving God wholeheartedly.
This is why they actually support vocational secondary education. Like, for example, going to like a trade school to learn how to be a plumber or an electrician or whatever. They don't have any problem with that at all. But learning new scientific information or whatever, that's unacceptable to Jehovah's Witnesses.
Remember what Jesus said, as recorded at Matthew 6:33.
What did Jesus say about going to college?
Keep on then seeking, what's the next word? First, the kingdom and his righteousness.
And that means you can't seek higher education. That means you should be wary about it. That means you should consider it hard instead of getting an education just to survive in this fucking economy. Are you kidding me right now?
And all these other things will be added to you. A sister named Josephina, or Josefina, who completed a course to become a beautician, came to this conclusion. She said, secular studies were a means to help me serve Jehovah as fully as possible. Education had to revolve around my spiritual goals, not the other way around. Iris, or Iris, who completed a longer course in the dental field, says, additional education may have some advantages, but it will never give you true success and satisfaction.
I'm sorry, that's some shit that a rich person says. Money doesn't bring happiness. My ass, it doesn't bring happiness. Okay, maybe money doesn't bring happiness. I've never seen somebody sad on a jet ski. Let me put it that way. Money absolutely does bring happiness. And a lack of money, poverty, brings misery. I get so sick of people saying shit like this. Okay, money, it's like, it's almost like people are saying money doesn't bring happiness, or some form of it, like he just gave to us a second ago. It's almost like they're saying this to discourage people from trying to make more money, from bettering their lives, and trying to make them happy with their lot in life. I'm sorry, but we should be able to survive and be happy and be okay. Most Jehovah's Witnesses or even most people in this economy can't. And saying such an empty, hollow platitude, dude, like that, is so out of touch, painfully stupid, genuinely.
She adds, the formula is simple. If Jehovah is at the center of your life, then satisfaction and success are guaranteed.
Now, that's simply false. That's not how anything works, okay? People can be very miserable and also Jehovah's Witnesses. Trust me on this one. I know what I'm talking about.
Yes, when our friendship with Jehovah is the most important thing in our life, we'll make decisions that result in lasting happiness. A second step to make a wise decision is to analyze what the education would involve. Could you support yourself without further education?
I would argue that most people in this economy cannot. Most people in the current U.S. economy, and the U.S. economy going back 20 years, have not been able to support themselves without a higher education, not comfortably, not without getting really lucky.
Many pioneers have been able to do so by finding part-time work.
Well, part-time work. I mean, you're going to need to find full-time work, right? You have to find some way to survive in this economy, and part-time work is not going to cut it. Like, some people have 2 jobs. Some have 3 fucking jobs. Nobody in the United States should ever have, nobody, period, U.S. or not, should ever have to have more than 1 job, have to work more than 40 hours a week. And honestly, it should be 32 hours a week. Do you know that our productivity in the United States has shot through the fucking roof in the past 75 years? We are making so much more stuff, so much, the manufacturing industry making so much stuff. The software industry producing so much more software, so much more quickly than it used to. So naturally, that should mean that the workers are making just as much money, right? To keep up with productivity? No. All that money is being concentrated at the top, and the workers are getting fucked.
For example, Johanna or Johanna from Finland didn't get any additional education. She says, after school, I started working part-time in pioneering. I've had a variety of jobs, and I've seen how Jehovah always keeps his promise to provide what we need.
But he doesn't. This line used to piss me off too. When I was little, my mom used to say, Jehovah will not put you beyond what you can bear. Basically, if you're experiencing something terrible, you can handle it. Your dog and your kid and your wife just died in a terrible car accident. You can handle it. Nonsense, okay? There's nobody looking down, protecting people like that. It's not happening.
I've seen how Jehovah always keeps his promise to provide what we need. If you and your parents discuss this well in advance, you'll have time to research different options together. You may be able to choose subjects at school that will prepare you for your future employment or education. If you're considering...
So have a mature Jehovah's Witness review your educational goals before you actually commit to anything, to make sure it's not going to interfere with being a Jehovah's Witness in any way. You want to take a biology class? Why don't you take an English class instead? That kind of thing, right?
Employment or education. If you're considering additional education, think about the time it will require. Will you still have time for your spiritual routine and family obligations? Could your secular studies leave you so mentally exhausted that you have no energy left for meeting preparation or personal study? What about the length? How many months or years will it take to complete? Ecclesiastes 12:1 encourages young ones, remember then your grand Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of distress come and the years arrive when you will say, I have no pleasure in them. If you're young...
So don't waste your time on education. Is that what he's saying? I think so.
Will the additional education allow you to give Jehovah your best, perhaps in the full-time service, while you're still young? Are there shorter education options in the same field?
I.e. vocational, like, electrician school or whatever, right? Okay.
Think also about practical considerations like the location and the cost. You may be able to find an educational program close to home. But what if you find a program in another city? Or what if the education requires you to live on campus? Be aware that moving away from your family poses a serious spiritual danger.
Because you're not being immersed in Jehovah's Witness shit 24/7, right?
Especially if you'll be living with relatives or others who don't share your beliefs. If you choose to get additional education, could you do so while continuing to live at home with your parents and even take a course online? Remember the principle Jesus stated, as recorded at Luke 14:28. He encouraged careful planning when he said, who of you wanting to build a tower does not first sit down and calculate the expense to see if he has enough to complete it? In some lands, additional education is inexpensive. It may even be paid for by the government. But in other countries, the same kind of education may lead to years of debt.
And that's justification alone to not do it, right?
The best time to analyze these things is before pursuing additional education, not after we've already begun. There's another factor to consider, the employment market. Will the courses you plan to take actually help you to find a job?
I mean, this is a clear example of him trying to prevent people from going to college, right? If he weren't trying to simply prevent people from going to college, they wouldn't have brought it up. They did a whole, 17-minute segment on this.
Most important, will they allow you to put kingdom interests first? Now,
we haven't even talked about Tony Morris and what he had to say on this exact subject back in, 2016 maybe?
Sometimes people will say, well, Jehovah's Witnesses are against education. Well, that's ridiculous. We're not against education. We are pro-education. It's just that we are selective with who does the educating.
Yeah, we want to do the educating, and it should be on Jehovah's Witnesses and the Bible, not on biology or, psychology or any of the other majors, computer science. It should be on Jehovah, and it should be us alone. Well, then you are anti-higher education.
We promote divine education. We believe it to be superior because it leads to everlasting life.
Divine education? Is that what he said?
So, with schools of higher education, in many of their curriculums, and if you know anything about it, maybe some of you have been, do they not have Philosophy 1 and Philosophy 2? It doesn't matter what you're going to major in. And they start you off there. You'd be going for another thing, but you have Philosophy 1, you have Philosophy 2. And then all of a sudden it gets in there, and the intellectual gripping of the mind, very hard to recover from.
The intellectual gripping of the mind is hard to recover from. Okay.
I've seen this so many times, and we could tell you so many horror stories, and the parents are all distraught, Why didn't you do more for my son? Why didn't you do more for my daughter? I would say, who dropped him off? The elders are heartbroken. They try. Know a lot of them personally. So you have to decide that. You want to take the risk? Your call. We're warning you.
So tell me again, you're not anti-higher education. Say it again, please. How do they get away with this shit? Genuinely, like, how do they get away with saying things like that without backlash from the members? It is so blatantly obvious that they are anti-higher education. They have been since day one, basically. And they pretend otherwise. Absurd. Tell me what you think in the comments. Let me just write this down real fast. What was the last one I hit? We hit misinformation. Oh, yeah, evolution. I have not been keeping track of my timestamps, unfortunately. We're at 121 now. Holy shit, dude. Really? I just burned through 3 videos and didn't keep track of a single timestamp. Damn. Okay. Well, let's hit these other subjects that we need to hit. I can't talk about Jehovah's Witnesses all night, unfortunately. I would like to, but I can't do that. Give me a second here. All right, let me just pull up... let's hit the mandatory Bible thing. Oh, shit. I'm TTSing right now. Oh, that sucks. I think I can stop the TTS work and come back to it, though. I forgot I needed to... Wait. Yeah, it's got a ways to go. We're just going to stop it for now. Just a second. Turn on the TTS server. Should I do it in my voice? I'm thinking I'm going to do it in my voice. Toggle controls. All right, awesome. Reading the Bible via Adobe Spark. That's cool. I like that. Wait, is this actually the Bible that we're looking at, or is this an AI image of the Bible? Are these real verses? No, this is AI. I think this is an AI image. Okay. Anyway. All right, let me start playing this. The engine is starting currently. Just give it a second. You know what? First, actually, let me just kill the engine completely first. Give it a second. Hold on. Okay, give me just a second here. I'm sorry. I'm still working on it. I'm going to go grab something real fast, though, before we hit the next one. So let me just pull something up. Let's see. Yeah, let's watch this. I'll be back in 1 second, okay? Wait, let me find where it gets really psychotic. Here you go.
Yeah, that is because if she do something wrong, that's what means if she is doing unlawful sex with any other wrong person.
Right.
This
so
is the,
if Sharia law is implemented in the UK, all people who cheat, all women who cheat should be killed.
They shouldn't cheat.
Yeah, I agree. You shouldn't cheat, but yet that happens. Lily Kate, why are so many younger people in your generation actually looking at Sharia law? Help us to understand.
Yeah, it's a similar reason for why a lot of men are actually converting to Catholicism. It's because it's a very defined system with very aggressive ways of enforcement. And people are looking for that structure. The problem is, unlike when people are converting to the Catholic Church, people are looking for that kind of structure and that kind of power in the wrong places. The heart of man knows so much evil, and there's so much rot in the heart of man. And Sharia law is the exact thing that allows the heart of man to be fully taken over. And, we're seeing the encouragement and the growth of Sharia law, even in, Texas, in Epic City. We're seeing it in Dearborn. We're seeing it actually up in Toronto as well. And people are gravitating toward this, especially young fighting age men, because it gives them a semblance of structure and law, and it gives them this innate place of power over other people and a religious reason to enforce those laws. So people are converting to this and sympathizing with this because young people crave that stability, right? They crave structure. They crave to be part of a community. They're just looking for it and finding it in all the wrong places.
This French woman, we saw this today, was abused and was going to have to, get this, she was raped, attacked brutally, and because she called them out on it, she was going to have to go to jail. It's a crazy story. Watch.
Hello to all my European and American friends. I just got off the phone with my lawyer and the verdict is in. The prison sentence has been ruled out. However, I am still convicted to a fine, but I'm gonna tell you everything. For those who may not know, I was facing 4 months of unsuspended prison for stating that the main threat to women in France comes from Black and Arab immigrant men. And I was sued for these words, despite the fact that I was myself the victim of a sexual assault committed by a Tunisian migrant in 2022. Before your incredible mobilization, the judicial system had set out to crush me. I had already been sentenced to 6 months suspended prison and a 3,000 fine for denouncing human trafficking across the Mediterranean Sea. And this time, I think the goal was to finish the job by sending me to prison.
Okay, I'm back. Now, let me just start the TTS server. And we can listen to it. Okay. As people know, I'm a programmer. I was long before YouTube. Well, I wrote a program basically that acts as, it clones my voice. So we're going to read this article with a cloned voice. Texas just made Bible reading mandatory in public schools. Listen to this article by Hemant Mehta. It's absolutely insane. TTS server on. Now I'm going to start buffering a video, or buffering a sentence. It should just take a second, and once it starts, it should go to the end. It just needs 6 or so seconds to get that first video. Well, 15 seconds, I guess. The first sentence. Hang on.
On Friday, the Texas State Board of Education officially...
Okay, that took way longer than I expected to get the first sentence down. That's weird. I guess it took time to load, to kind of boot up into memory. Okay, let's listen.
On Friday, the Texas State Board of Education officially mandated Bible readings in public schools as part of a revised curriculum. The Republican-dominated board voted 9-5 to include Christian stories in a longer required reading list, while excluding stories from any other major religion that teach similar lessons. It's not a surprise that it happened, but it's still disappointing.
I was wondering how they got past the very clear rules that prevent you from forcing people to read the Bible. They basically stuck it into the mandatory reading lists in the curriculum. So how did they get Bibles back in schools? They flagrantly ignored all of the constitutional protections and are mandating that children read it for certain specific lessons. Like Anne Frank, they force you to, when you talk about Anne Frank and the Holocaust or whatever in history class, they force you to read Bible verses about not killing people or whatever other nonsense. Insane. I can't imagine how this stands up in court, that the government is mandating children read holy books.
While conservatives' claims isn't about indoctrination, the message is clear. Texas thinks Christianity is the only religion that matters. As if we didn't already know that when the same lawmakers passed
laws forcing the Ten Commandments to go up in every classroom and allowing schools to hire chaplains to counsel students. Hold on.
This is the same board that approved a separate state-approved reading and language arts curriculum for public schools that was filled with biblical references and errors. And it's not just me saying this.
This is Hemen Mehta speaking, obviously.
And it's not just me saying this. The people who advocated for the new reading list sure as hell saw this as a way to advertise Christianity. Board member Brandon Hall, during a news conference Thursday, called the proposals a generational opportunity to overhaul the state curriculum. We're going to stop watering down American history. We're going to teach the truth. Our nation was founded as a Christian nation, and Texas is a Christian state, said Hall, a Republican who is a pastor in Springtown. He said the Bible has had a remarkable impact on our culture, our societies, and our laws.
So he's finding any instance where he believes there might be a case that you could make that the law was somehow influenced by the Bible, even a little bit, even if it wasn't even influenced by it. Just stick it in there anywhere, and suddenly you have a mandatory reading list for the Bible. By the way, Haunted Shadows Legacy, how's this AI voice? Is this any good? This kind of AI has existed for a long time. It's not like ChatGPT, and it's running on my computer, like offline. I'm running this personally on my computer, so there are no ethics problems. I didn't train it on anything except for my own voice, so it's not using like other people's writings or anything. It's not using any of that. It's not using water. It's not using any electricity aside from just like what I'm using by streaming in the first place. I view this like TTS voice as about as ethical as it gets. But some people are just like dead set against AI, no matter what kind, even if it's not even the same kind, like the large language model style that they're used to. Yeah, and someone makes a good point. What about slaveholding laws? Are they going to find an excuse to have people read the Bible, have children read the Bible, mandated Bible reading in school over slavery? Almost certainly, right?
We don't have to incorporate every religious belief in our history or in our literary works because our nation was founded on Judeo-Christian values.
Founded on Judeo-Christian values. So this is Susan Perez, and this is another example of one of the bill sponsors or writers or whatever trying to cram this down people's throats. More excuses for why they're trying to do this. I know all too well. Okay.
Said Susan Perez, founder of a Christian parent advocacy group, wasn't Citizens for Education Reform in school board meeting Monday. There's a very good argument that could be made for teaching children about the Bible in the name of cultural literacy. Without knowing the story of Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden, for example, you may miss out on a lot of references made in literature, art, and pop culture.
That's actually how I felt. That this is being read by Hemen Mehta now. I'm sorry. This was written by Hemant Mehta, this section, and that's how I felt. That's why I sent my kid to church when she was young in the first place, so that she got an understanding of just cultural values and expectations and intricacies that exist in our society. Not that she needs to follow any of that. Not that she even believes it. She doesn't. But I felt that it was important to at least understand it, you know?
But not every story in the Bible is relevant, even in that context. Furthermore, texts is even using the Bible to teach otherwise generic lessons like humility and love. They're also using the Bible as supportive material for other books, as if you can't understand the Diary of Anne Frank or Elie Wiesel's Night without knowing the Christian references.
Elie Wiesel, and yeah, those books are really, really good. So here's the reading list. The full list can be seen at this link here. It's a pretty long list, but here are just some examples. First grade, Noah's Ark by Peter Speer. Second grade, David and Goliath, excerpt from the Children's Book of Heroes by William J. Bennett. Third grade, Roar, Daniel and the Lion's Den, children's adapted version by CBN, Christian Broadcasting Network. Let's see how my TTS voice pronounces this one.
Learn third grade, Roar, Daniel and the Lion's Den, children's
Okay. Oh, that's top tier shit. Oh, I love that. Wow, that was actually kind of weird. That's how it enunciates or does surprise, how it mimics surprise. Interesting.
Learn third grade, Roar.
Roar! Okay. Fourth grade, The Necessity of Humility, Book of Luke, chapter 14, New International Reader's Version. Wow, there's no underlying explanation for that, no reason, no nothing. They're just sticking a Bible chapter in there for kids to read. Okay. Fifth grade, Moses, Book of Exodus, chapter 3, The Burning Bush, and the Book of Exodus, chapter 14, The Parting of the Red Sea, New International Reader's Version, Hebrew Bible / Old Testament. Sixth grade, Do Not Be Anxious, Book of Matthew, chapter 6, verses 25 to 34. Seventh grade, The Shepherd's Psalm, Book of Psalms, chapter 23. I noticed they're giving specific translations. King James Version, Hebrew Bible / Old Testament. This is included in Lessons for the Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Seventh grade, The Eight Beatitudes, Book of Matthew, chapter 5, King James Version. This is the lesson for The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. Eighth grade, To Everything There's a Season, Book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3. This is included in Lessons for the Giver by Lois Lowry. Eighth grade, Book of Lamentations, chapter 3. Tanakh, Jewish Publication Society, 1917. This is included in Lessons for Night by Elie Wiesel. I wonder if they included anything from the Song of Solomon. Is that the one? The Song of Solomon? Yeah. Hold on. Give me a second. Let me find it. Okay, I'm just looking here. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find the right verses. Give me just a second. Let me find Ezekiel 23. So there's a verse in Ezekiel 23, the parable of Ohola and Oholibah, two sisters representing Samaria and Jerusalem. For she doted upon their paramours, whose flesh is as the flesh of asses, and whose issue is like the issue of horses. Okay, that's pretty tamed down. This is the King James. That one is not quite as raunchy as the actual translation. I'm surprised that the King James decided to tone it down a little bit, but it's bad. The Bible is not appropriate for children, okay? It is not. I'm not saying that because I'm an atheist or anything. It's not appropriate for children, okay? 8th grade, to everything there is a season. 8th grade, Book of Lamentations. 9th grade, Parable of the Prodigal Son. This goes with Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. 10th grade, the Book of Job. This goes with Lessons for Dante's Inferno. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that Inferno was included in the reading list. 11th grade, Adam and Eve. Book of Genesis, chapters 2 and 3. This is included in Lessons for the Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. 12th grade, The Definition of Love. Book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 13. This is included in Lessons for Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Jesus Christ, dude.
The educators will now have a few to work the new material into their lessons.
I'm sorry. The educators will now have a few years to work the new material into their lessons. This is a quote.
On Friday, board members decided to stagger implementation of the reading list. Elementary school students will see the new standards in the 2030-31 school year, 6th graders in 2031-32 school year, whatever 7th and 8th graders in the 2032-33 school year, and high school students in the 2033-34 school year.
Why did it insert the word whatever in there randomly? That's unusual. Okay, let's keep listening.
With Americans United for Separation of Church and State, said this was an effort to misuse public schools to impose one narrow set of religious beliefs and indoctrinate a new generation of Americans in the lie that America is a Christian. To his own country.
Okay, got it. I'm sorry. It's sticking artifacts in there. I'm not sure why. And indoctrinate a new generation of Americans in the lie that America is a Christian country. The Freedom from Religion Foundation was even more blunt.
A required reading list that overwhelmingly favors Christian texts while excluding the writings and literary traditions of other faiths, not to mention the perspectives of millions of non-religious Americans. Normal to libid and penta.
Okay, I don't know what that was. Just editing, we're going to cut that, and I'll just read this manually. Sends an unmistakable message about who belongs and who does not. I wonder how they would feel if we started sticking Quran verses in. How would they feel about that one? What about verses from the Satanic Bible? They be okay with that one? No? No? Is that because they want Christianity to be the dominant religion, to control things? They want Christianity to have more power in the United States than other country or than other religions? Could that be why? Maybe?
He compelling every student to read a curated selection of Bible passages and Christian parables, while giving little or no comparable treatment to other traditions, crosses the line from education into religious promotion.
Clear as day. Could not possibly be clearer. That's what they're doing, right?
Where the question now is whether all this will be taught objectively.
Obviously not.
Will Christian teachers in public schools be able to resist the temptation to tell kids these stories reflect reality? What happens to students whose parents don't want them to receive religious lessons? Keep in mind that because these readings are required, they could also be seen on standardized tests, which means students who aren't familiar with them could see that reflected in their scores. Even beyond the biblical infusion here, this required list hamstrings the ability of teachers and school districts to decide what materials their students should read. If they're forced to teach certain books, it limits their ability to include anything beyond that. The focus on certain classic books is also drawing scrutiny because of the lack of diversity in authors and lack of contemporary novels on the list.
Interesting. The lack of diversity in authors and lack of contemporary novels on the list. So they're going with older stuff like Pride and Prejudice and The Diary of Anne Frank and Elie Wiesel's Night. All good books, obviously, but nothing contemporary. I hadn't thought about it.
There may be a silver lining to all this, though, as noted by a Catholic priest on CNN. And, you know, as a priest, I have to tell you, forced scripture doesn't deepen faith. I think it breeds resentment when the state and not a family or a teacher decides which Bible passages children must read. I think something sacred's been handed to politics, he continued.
Yes, absolutely. It does breed resentment. Look at James Tallarico. Look at where that dude is right now. He appears like he's about to take the Texas Senate. And his whole issue is Christian nationalism is a problem. Yes, it does breed resentment to absurd degrees. You know what? We're going to change the voice on this. Oh my God. I think I have to kill it completely. Give me a second. Hold on. I'm going to change. It should be a lot easier to do this. But I haven't worked that out in the programming yet, so yeah. All right, let's try this again. There we are. Yeah, starting the engine. We're going to switch to the Deathstalker voice.
Anytime you force kids to read the Bible, some of them are going to realize the stories are fictional.
There we go. All right, let's start from that sentence.
Anytime you force kids to read the Bible, some of them are going to realize the stories are fictional. They're going to tell their friends. They're going to ask the teachers uncomfortable questions. There's no greater tool for atheism than the Bible.
Bruh, I think this is coming from Hemant Mehta, who wrote Atheism for Dummies, I believe. I could be wrong. And he also wrote The Atheist Survival Guide and went to schools and passed these books out alongside the Gideons. What a fantastic idea, right? Like the Gideons, those shitheads who are always sticking Bibles in hotel rooms and giving them out at schools. Every time I find one in a hotel room, I take it and throw it in the trash because it's not the hotels. It doesn't belong to them. It belongs to the Gideons who were allowed in by the hotel to stick their Bibles in everything. And the more money I can drain from the Gideons, the better. I would rather they not be passing out their shit to everybody.
That doesn't make what they're doing in Texas okay, but they clearly haven't thought this one through. And what happens if teachers tell students these stories are fictional, or incorporate additional material, like Greek mythology, to reinforce the lessons?
Ooh, shit. That wouldn't be good for Christianity. That's a good point, though.
There are going to be Christian parents who don't like how these lessons are taught. There will inevitably be lawsuits, but I wouldn't be surprised if they come from Bible-loving parents who don't appreciate how public schools aren't giving their holy book the deference they think it deserves. And what happens if Texas, which is ranked...
Jesus Christ, I'm sorry. That's really loud.
And what happens if Texas, which is ranked 29th in the country when it comes to K-12 education by one metric, gets worse after implementing this reading curriculum? This is what it looks like, though, when right-wing activists use the government to elevate one religion, the religion, over all others. Texas isn't just acknowledging that the Bible has influenced Western culture. It's requiring kids to embrace Christianity. In a way, it's denying all other faiths and traditions.
Right? Like, how would they feel if they started shoving the Quran down kids' throats? They wouldn't like that very much, would they?
But once the Bible becomes just another piece of assigned text, it loses the aura of holiness. Students are going to have...
Holy shit, dude. What is going on with the volume on this? I'm sorry.
a piece of assigned text, it loses the aura of holiness. Students are going to have questions, and some parents will surely regret that they're asking their public school teachers instead of their pastors. Kids are going to notice contradictions. They're going to read about a burning bush and a talking snake and God's cruelty with Job, and they're going to realize this book they've been raised to revere is full of bullshit.
Unfortunately, when you try to push things on people like that, it doesn't end well. Well, fortunately, I suppose. When you try to push things on people like this, it doesn't end well. They don't like it, and they reject it most of the time. This is like when Christian nationalists say, we want to breed an entire generation of extremists, so we're going to start the quiverful movement. And because, you know, children are like a quiver or arrows in your quiver or whatever the hell the book of Psalms says about it. And we're going to have like 17 kids like the Duggars, and we're going to send them out like little missionaries all around the country to do stupid shit, like spread the gospel at school and stuff. Doesn't work that way. Kids don't like doing that. You don't control your kid. They may believe it, and they may not. But I don't worry about Christian nationalists birthing their way into a Christian nation. They've been trying to do that for literal centuries, and it just doesn't work that way.
If conservatives think mandatory Bible reading will create more Christians, they haven't been paying attention to what actually happens when young people are encouraged to read the book critically instead of devotionally. That may be the greatest failure of this entire stunt. Critics already have a few years to put together material to contextualize the Bible lessons in a way Christians aren't going to like. The fact that we're even having this conversation is a sign of failure. After all, if your religion has to be propped up by state mandates, it's an admission your religion can't survive on its own.
Absolutely. And I believe that's what Tallarico actually said, fascinatingly. I believe he said that exact thing. Let's see if I can find that. Yeah, if you're not familiar with him, he's a pastor who's running for the Senate now.
The Bible doesn't mention abortion.
Sorry, let me turn it up a bit. I have a lot of volume problems.
Or gay marriage. The Bible doesn't mention abortion or gay marriage, but it goes on and on about forgiving debt, liberating the poor, and healing the sick. Christian nationalists like to say this is a Christian nation. Not only is that historically inaccurate, not only is that theologically blasphemous, but it's also just not true. Look around us. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would forgive student debt. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would guarantee health care to every single person.
I love this fucking guy. He is just awesome, honestly.
If this was truly a Christian nation, we would love all of our LGBTQ neighbors. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would make sure every child in this state and in this country was housed, fed, clothed, educated, and insured. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would never make it a Christian nation, because we know the table of fellowship is open to everybody, including our Buddhist, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, Sikh, and atheist neighbors. Jesus could have started a Christian theocracy, but love would never do that. The closest thing we have to the kingdom of heaven is a multiracial, multicultural democracy where power is truly shared among all people, something that's yet to exist in human history.
This dude's fucking awesome. Seriously. Anyway, this is in Texas where this is happening. Let's see if Tallarico can get anything done about it. Tell me what you think in the comments. Texas Bible reading. It's 121 to 154. It's been a slow news month. Just everything is very, very slow lately. Let's see. Let's pull up Joel Webbon. He's absolutely psychotic. Webbon. Let me see.
All right, we're going to shift the conversation now.
This just in. It appears by all...
Hold on.
That historical event is no mere historical event.
Satanic religion. Oh my God, I forgot about this. This is crazy. Yeah. I'm just looking for the right videos here. Call for violent deportation. Okay, I'll be back in a second. I'm going to let one of these play. I will be right back, okay? Oh, shit. I can't let one of these play. These aren't good.
DUI.
Yeah, I'm going to let this play. I'll be back in a second.
DUI?
Yes.
I'm not under the influence.
Okay.
Bullshit. Is that literally what you guys are arresting me for?
Because I can smell alcohol, so.
You're wrong.
Well, prove me wrong then. Do the test. Don't do that.
Okay, sir. All right.
The next time you make an aggressive move towards me, you will be going to jail for menacing, okay?
I guess. Look, brother, I swear to God, I'm not trying to make you.
It's not brother, it's officer.
Officer. 7, 8, 9, 10.
If you didn't do any kind of observation test, I had enough to arrest you and place you under arrest for DUI.
Okay.
Okay, so you'd have been going to jail.
You would have got sued.
That's qualified immunity. I wouldn't have got sued, but okay.
Why am I going to jail?
Don't tense up.
Why though?
I'll explain that in a minute. You're
Hey,
under
Carol, I'm going to jail. Yeah, I don't know why.
Quit trying to pull away from me.
What did he do that insinuated in any way he was under the influence?
Nate Stevens had done nothing wrong. Some 17-year-old kid backed into him out of a driveway.
And I pulled up in that driveway just to back out. And I hadn't seen him. I don't know if he was going fast or not. I have no idea because I couldn't see him. But by the time I seen him, we'd already hit.
It was the kid's fault. They exchanged information. Then he went to get a drink. It was just a minor fender bender. It wasn't a big deal. Then a parent of one of the kids involved hears about it and calls the police, wanting a police report.
My son's friend's truck is in the driveway. The truck that hit him has left.
Nathan gets back from getting a drink. Then the cops arrive. This is where the body cam footage begins.
What's going on, man?
What's that, bro?
Doing good. What happened?
What's your name? Nate.
Talk about it.
I was just driving. He pulled in, and I guess he didn't see me, and he backed out and hit me. This little scratch in the front.
I was leaving here. I about pulled in there to back up, and I couldn't see him in my mirror. And by the time I seen him, he'd already hit. So.
Okay. So was you coming up this way?
Yeah, I just live within the street. So.
Y'all have your license on, your registration proof insurance?
You mind?
Yes, sir. So you were pulling out, he was backing out of here, and y'all hit, right? Just a little scratch.
I already had a dent there, so I'm not worried about damage at all.
So what happened is, I can't make heads or tails what he's talking about.
Okay, so I was leaving here. I was facing the other direction. I pulled up in that driveway just to back out, and I hadn't seen him. I don't know if he was going fast or not. I have no idea because I couldn't see him. But by the time I seen him, we'd already hit.
Okay, right here.
Yeah, and I didn't hear a honk until I'd already hit.
What's your name?
Okay, let's continue. Where we were. This is Joel Webbon, Christian nationalist extremist, and he just kind of lays out the plan here.
It's not just biblical; it's American, right? We say, "Hey, the founders, we got to get back to our roots. We got to get back to our American heritage." You want to get back to your American heritage? Amen. That's wonderful. Start punishing blasphemers, and also reinstall Sabbath laws. That's
Sabbath laws, dude. Sabbath laws. That's something like most Christians don't agree with.
It's American. It's not just biblical. It's American. Here's the deal. In principle, not only is it permissible, it's righteous, it's ideal, it's virtuous. But here's the deal. In terms of application, although it's good, it's not achievable. And it will actually sideline you.
It's good and virtuous to force your religion on other people, is what he's saying. To force other people to live by your religious rules. There's a Muslim that lives in your country. They have to abide by Sabbath laws. What?
good, it's not achievable. And it will actually sideline you. That kind of purity spiraling will will render you, it'll put you on the bench. It'll sideline you. It'll function as a liability.
I sure as I'm sorry. I sure as fuck hope so. I sure as hope fuck so. I hope it sidelines you. You know, this is called the democratic firewall. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but it was a concept that was explored heavily after World War II during denazification, where they had a democracy kind of imposed on them to some degree. They were under military control for a while, and then they were allowed to experiment with democracy a bit again, and they were heavily monitored in Germany. And when their democracy returned, they had the democratic firewall, where if there was somebody who was just a complete a complete Looney Tune, just out of their heads, drunk on Jesus juice or whatever the fuck else they were drinking. If they had somebody like that, like a Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, they would just be iced out of the process. They wouldn't be invited into the system. The news wouldn't cover them. Nobody would work with them. And we had the same thing here in the United States. Radicals are iced out of the system. But when they win an election, what are you supposed to do? You strip them of committee assignments in Congress, and that's about it. They're still congressmen. They still get to vote on things. The democratic firewall in the United States completely failed in 2016 when Donald Trump got into office. And I blame the clickbait media at that time for that happening. Anyway, that's what he's talking about here, the democratic firewall.
So you don't run on that, and you don't talk about that as a politician yet. But that is the goal, what we're working toward.
He's got serious, deep issues, Joel Webbon does. Like, some of the shit that he said is vile shit, dude. Listen to this one.
That historical
way too. Why is this so quiet?
Event is
That's what?
no mere history.
All right, that works. He's talking about the Holocaust here.
That historical event is no mere historical event. It is a religion. It is an ideology. It is a worldview. It is a weaponized bludgeon that has beat generation of generation after generation of white young men into believing they're not allowed to have a future. And
I'm sorry? I consider myself an expert on the Kirchenkampf, the church struggle in World War II, Hitler's attempt to take over the Protestant and Catholic churches. I've written multiple books on this. One of which, the newest one, is called God's People, Christian Nationalism in the Third Reich. It's on Amazon and Audible if you want to check it out. owenmorgan.com/God's People. Anyway, I would love to know how white men are being negatively affected by Holocaust studies.
that has beat generation of generation after generation of white young men into believing they're not allowed to have a future. And it is time for Holocaustianity, that false, wicked, satanic religion of Holocaustianity, to fall and crumble like the idol that it is.
That shit is fucking wild. Calling Holocaust studies a religion that is hurting white men. What? Holocaustianity.
Somebody raises an Islamic 90-foot statue in my state, which they have outside of Houston.
A 90-foot Muslim statue, okay? I'm going to find out.
My prayer is that that statue would be ground into dust. Let no false god be worshipped on American soil. This is a Christian nation and Christ is king. And the same principle applies to a more powerful false religion that has had America, my nation, in a stranglehold a lot longer and a lot tighter than Islam ever has or likely ever will. And that is the false religion, not of Islam, but Holocaustianity. And all its idols and all its high priests and all of its altars and all of its sacraments must be ground into dust.
Holocaust studies must be ground into dust. That is insane. Regarding that statue, Statue of Union, a 90-foot statue of the Hindu god Hanuman at the Sri something something temple in Houston. Oh, so it was private property at a Hindu temple, and they wanted to erect a statue on their private property. Okay, well, first of all, it wasn't Muslim. And second, this is people doing what they want with their lives that doesn't affect you in any way, shape, or form. That is fascinating. I didn't hear about this. This is in September 2025. Called it the GOP called it a false statue of a false Hindu god, quote unquote, and argued the U.S. is a Christian nation, which got pushed back from the Hindu American Foundation as anti-Hindu. Wow. These people are so insane, dude, really.
And if that requires some young men to use language that makes you feel a little icky, God bless it.
He's talking about the N-word here. The N-word makes some people feel a little icky. But if it means getting rid of the Holocaust studies, then God bless them. Are you kidding me? Truly, deeply vile human being. Joe Webbon is. Absolutely disgusting. You think that one's bad?
Homosexuality
Jesus Christ, dude, the clipping.
is...
Try again.
Homosexuality is degenerate. It is bad for the populace. It's bad for society.
How? In what way? Can you tell me one way in which it's bad for society, for anybody?
It's been incredibly harmful. We've seen a full court press against our own children as the sacrificial lamb in order to appease older gay men and make them feel better about themselves.
I don't understand at all. What the fuck is he talking about?
It's wicked. It's predatory. And I think, yeah, it is appropriate for us to be able to call it what it is and say, wait a second, this is perverse, it's wicked, it's factory.
Yeah, he likes throwing around slurs, just has a good time with it, enjoys it, does it for fun, obviously. This guy's extremely powerful, by the way. He's not a nobody. He's very well known and has connections to real power in government.
And it needs to stop. I think that that's okay. Yes, you can use that word on occasion, as I just did, to say, no, we're not going to tolerate factory with our children. Cut it out.
That's not happening. Nobody is grooming the children. Get fucking help. Genuinely.
Stop it. Say Christ is Lord. Stop it. I do think that we can use some strong language.
But what's the point of using quote-unquote strong language? What's the point of the slurs? Why would you do that? What are you accomplishing actually? You say strong language is justified? For what? What are you gaining out of this? Are you just gaining people viewing you as a complete piece of shit? Mission accomplished. The dude is weird in all kinds of different ways, too. It's not just that he's a piece of shit. He's just weird.
We're not actually...
Hold on, let me just find... Here, this is a good one. This one is actually pretty funny to me.
If we had a Christian nation...
Let me turn it down, sorry.
And if we had a Christian nation and women could vote, then within 50 years we would no longer have a Christian nation. God has not designed women for warfare, and that's part of what politics is. It's really all that politics is. It's war without the blood.
No, it is literally the exact opposite of war. Politics is avoiding war. When politics fails, you get war, you see. So it's not war. It is precisely the opposite of war.
And I believe that the sword has been given to men. The sword is, without being crude, I think this is a fact. It is a phallus.
Okay. He views swords as an extension of his twig and berries. All right. Why not gun? Why didn't you say guns are an extension of your twig and berries?
Is assigned by God to men. I think nature shows that. I think scripture shows that. So
nature and scripture shows that swords are an extension of your twigs and berries. I love playing this one because it is so fucking weird. Genuinely think about what he just said. How fucking weird is that for him to say?
Both natural revelation and special revelation. War is something that is belonging to men, and it's not something that we employ in our ranks, whether it be political war or whether it be literal war, women and children. So in the same way, and people are like, that's so archaic. You're a Neanderthal.
No, I don't think that's archaic or like Neanderthal-like. I think it's fucking embarrassing and stupid. I can't believe he's saying those words because I'm sitting here cringing on his behalf. Secondhand embarrassment. It's not like tough or cool or whatever to imagine that a sword is an extension of your twig and berries. It's embarrassing. Oh, shit. What happened? Weird.
And people are like, that's so archaic. You're a Neanderthal. You're so, primitive and chauvinistic. You won't let women vote. Well, our society doesn't let 5-year-olds vote yet. I pray that it, that it stays that way.
He's just a piece of shit is the bottom line here. He believes that women are intellectually like a 5-year-old. Anyway, Joe Webbon is a piece of trash. Honestly. Holocaustianity. Tell me what you think in the comments. Insane. Whoop. I'm going to close the browser extension here. Or remove the things. Okay. So we hit that. Let's hit some good news. We're going to get some good news here. Let me find my tabs. Close Webbon. Just remove the Webbon tab. Okay, here we go. Anything flagged in this one? Yes. Okay. So Republicans seem to think that they're going to lose egregiously in 2026 midterms.
And right now...
Sorry, quiet. Let me fix that. I should just normalize all audio across the board when the video comes in, right?
And right now, if you look at the most recent, I think, ABC News Washington Post poll, the Democrats and the liberals enjoy a roughly 14-point advantage on turnout and enthusiasm. So we've got a very short period of time to turn that around. I mean, here's the good news. The election isn't tomorrow. It's in 134 days. So we've got time to turn this around. But if we don't turn it around, it's going to be a very ugly picture in November. And people need to be reminded of what a Democratic House and Senate would look like.
Yeah, I think yes, please remind people. I would really appreciate that. Remind people of what a Democratic House and Senate would look like because it's significantly better than the Republican House and Senate in every single way. I wrote this. This is wavemap.us. Feel free to go take a look at it if you want. It's really cool. You've got prediction mode where you can paint states a certain color, and if, South Carolina goes blue, then prediction mode changes the likeliness of other states changing. Like if South Carolina goes blue, Nebraska turns purple. If Nebraska turns blue, then Montana turns purple, that kind of thing. Anyway, it's cool to play around with. Like I said, I made it a while back. But what he's talking about here is the Democratic mobilization multiplier. Okay, and right now, we're seeing a multiplier of about 1.5x. 1.5 times as many Democrats are coming out to vote as last time. And about 0.05 times more Republicans are coming out to vote this time than last time, according to special elections and stuff. So he's seeing a 14-point jump on Democrats' part. That is an insane fucking jump to have 14 points, but I think it's even more insane than that. In fact, in some cases, in some states, Texas primaries and stuff, we've seen up to 2 times as many Democrats voting as last time around. And if that trend sticks nationwide, we're looking at taking 60 Senate seats. They know they are fucked. They know they are fucked. It's going to be a fucking bloodbath for Republicans this time around. It's just a matter of how many seats we're going to take. Without any multipliers or anything at all, we would be looking at 46 Democrats in the Senate to 54 Republicans. But we can switch to the mobilization premium here and base it off of, you know, the point count here, if what he was talking about. But we actually have to adjust these numbers. Generic ballot environment, that's the general feel in the country. Who feels like their issue is more important? A few months ago, Republicans had the public narrative with Nick Shirley talking about fraud and stuff. But Democrats have the public narrative right now by D+6. The presidential approval rating is no longer 42%. It is now 36% at best. The consumer sentiment is not 56 points. It's an index. It is now 48 points. People are less financially stable and comfortable than they were before. It's getting worse. Is the country moving in the right direction? This is no longer 36. It's closer to 28. And when it's lower and there's a Republican in charge in the White House, Republicans do worse. Hold on, let me fix my fireplace here. Here we go. And the incumbency advantage, about 2.6 points. We'll leave that as it is. So we've actually been seeing up to 25 points in a lot of these districts. And that might be a safe bet, maybe. I think that we can, at a bare minimum, expect to take the Senate without a doubt. And the House, both. I don't think there's any way in hell we're coming out of this without taking both of them. That's the standard practice anyway. In an off year, when a new candidate wins the presidency, the opposite party takes power in the midterm elections. But I don't think we use the mobilization premium like he was saying. I think we're looking at a complete sweep of fucking everything, genuinely. Mark my words.
Of what a Democratic House and Senate would look like.
I think that's a great point, and I've been telling people I don't care how bad the Republicans have betrayed you or have not done what you said they would do. It's not about them. It's about protecting President Trump at the end of the day, and it's about protecting the Supreme Court. I mean, and I think you're right. I think we've got to make sure that people understand exactly what is at stake here.
Isn't that fascinating? Everything is always so dire with Republicans when they have complete control of fucking everything. What is dire about Republican situation right now in Congress or whatever? What is dire about the Republican Party? They have everything. They control every branch of government, the judicial branch, the executive branch, the legislative branch, including the House and the Senate. They control everything. The situation we're in right now, we're in because of Republicans. And they know that. And that is why they are freaked out. But did you catch what he said there, Todd Starnes, at the end?
Betrayed you.
One more time.
How bad the Republicans have betrayed you.
I don't care how bad the Republicans have betrayed you. They know they're fucked. They know they are. Todd Starnes is a propagandist like Rush Limbaugh and takes talking points from the party. So that's what they're talking about. This is E.W. Jackson, a scumbag pastor, anti-trans, anti-LGBT pastor. Anyway, listen to what he said on the subject.
I have the greatest admiration for President Trump. I think that he's done a tremendous job. Is he perfect? By no stretch of the imagination is he perfect. Not his past, not his present. He won't be perfect in the future. But I think he's done a tremendous service for this country, and I'm grateful to him for it.
What?
But he's leaving. What happens to America then? What does the next president do? Imagine if the agenda I've just suggested to you is not only subverted, but you had a Congress controlled by leftists and a leftist president who could completely alter everything I've just laid out and take this country in a socialist, secularist, godless, and frankly, sexually deviant direction, which is exactly what they want to do. And that is not too strong language to describe it. That is
sexually deviant is not too strong of language. Language, good sir. Golly, listening to words like that.
It's exactly what it is. Imagine.
Just imagine living in a secular country. How horrifying would that be, right? OMG. GTFO.
What this country looks like if instead of the continued flourishing of this awakening, we get a surrender to the forces of evil and where that would ultimately take the country. Well, we don't have to let that happen. God doesn't want it to happen.
Well, fantastic. If God doesn't want it to happen, then it won't happen, right? What are you worried about? Feels like you're worried over a hill of bananas. The point is, they're scared. They are very scared. They know that people are unhappy with what they're up to right now, and they have a very short period of time to do what they want. They have burned through every fucking bit of that political capital that they had at the start. They didn't have very much political capital in the beginning. You know, political capital, that thing that gives them the mandate to do what they want, the ability to govern and push through things that they want to push through without too much pushback. Well, I think that political capital was spent when they started sending the first people to concentration camps. I would say that's when their political capital was lit on fucking fire. And I truly believe this. Mark my words. I think they are fucked. Politically, Republicans are fucked. They aren't going to win another election for the foreseeable future. There have been some elections where some Republicans across the country have just barely squeaked out a victory in some districts where Trump won those districts by 30 or 40 points. You know, Democrat gets 25% in the last election to the Republicans' 65% or whatever. And they barely pulled through the other side in the recent special elections. We're talking the Republican got 52% out of 40, and the Democrat got 48%. They are completely fucked, I'm telling you. Anyway, you love to see it. You just love to see it. Tell me what you think in the comments. Can you do an NPR dry read impression? I'm not sure what you mean. Can you elaborate? You don't have to send another super chat. Just at me in the chat and elaborate what you mean. I can if you tell me what you're looking for. Okay. That was a really good one. I really enjoyed that one. What did we cover before this? Webbon. We covered Webbon, right. We finished this one at 225. 154 to 225. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I should really do at least 2 more videos, ideally 3 or 4, but I'm not sure if we're going to get there. I actually technically have enough for what I needed to do. So let's just see where the night takes us. Let's open this. Open this. Open this. 1 second here. Sorry. Let's see. What was the separation of church and state? Yeah, here we go. Christian nationalist historian citing quotation that doesn't exist. Yeah, okay. This one is 37 seconds, 52, 57. Really? This is only...
So say there's some religious act.
No, there's no way. This is that short. Oh, I thought this was longer than that. Okay. Give me a second. I'm actually going to use the bathroom real fast. Be right back. Okay, I'm going to let this play for just a second.
Why? Because if you can't demon...
This is Tim Barton. Shit, I just realized I was muted. This is Tim Barton, right-wing nutcase, makes up all kinds of shit about the Constitution that's not true. I'll be right back.
Demonize the founding fathers, then you really can't ever remove the Constitution. But if you can show the founding fathers were evil, then the Constitution is just fruit from the poisonous tree. And so we got to get rid of all of this. So there's actually been a much better playbook from the Marxists, communists, and socialists than most Americans recognize. And one of the things that unfortunately is true, there's a title known as Useful Idiots. And
wasn't that Lenin?
Right. It's one of the things that, again, communists and Marxists talked about. You get people who are too dumb to know any better, and you use them on your side to advance your cause. And this is what we are seeing happen all around America right now. People who don't recognize how special what America is. Earlier this year, there was a lot of the No Kings protests that happened, and there's so many levels of irony with it. But the thing I want to highlight is there were people holding up signs that said No Kings, and right beside them, people holding up signs that said, we want a communist nation. Okay? So,
you know, Jamie and I, when we watch the news, we often say, well, there's some of those useful idiots that Lenin talked about, because you have to have people that are uninformed to be able to support these policies.
To promote communism where you have a dictator. So saying you don't want a king, even though they acknowledge he was elected, but I don't want a king, but I want a dictator. You have to be an idiot, and I don't know how useful you are, but you're an idiot. With the love of Jesus, I say that. But this is part of what we are navigating today, that the friction of where we are today, can we ever get back to where we were? I don't know that we ever can get quite back to where we were without having an incredible reformation, which is part of what an awakening can be.
But you know, this is part of what you guys are so good at. You are informing people of the historical things and showing them, like these people that were saying Palestine from the river to the sea, and they're advocating the elimination of Israel, and they're embracing the Palestinians. And if many of them are homosexuals, many of them are all these things, if they were to go there, they'd be killed in a heartbeat.
Correct.
They don't even know what they're saying. Useful idiots.
Correct. One of the things, though, Dad, I've heard you say this before, and I don't know that...
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. This is, wait, who is Dan Patrick? He's the lieutenant governor of Texas, right? Is that who he is? Hold on. I'm actually going to use the Deathstalker voice again because I really like it a lot. Deathstalker. Well, let's see if I can get this loading and buffering. Yes, Lieutenant Governor of Texas. That's what I thought. Okay. This is Dan Oh my God, Dr. Phil's in the background here too. Dan Patrick, Lieutenant Governor of Texas.
The Trump administration's Religious Liberty Commission has...
Sorry. Dan Patrick, Lieutenant Governor of Texas, said some absolutely psychotic stuff about church-state separation. Okay, listen to this.
That public official
I'm sorry, turn it. Let me fix the volume here. Turn it up.
that public official must in writing explain how that person has violated the Constitution. Because again,
no, this isn't right. There's more to this clip.
That
I don't understand. Hold on. All right, let me just play it. And maybe I'm just not hearing enough of it.
Public official must in writing explain how that person has violated the Constitution. Because, again, the separation of church and state is not in the Constitution. And from this day forward...
I'm sorry. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's literally the first sentence of the First Amendment of the Constitution. The concept of separation of church and state is represented by the Establishment Clause. What is it? Let me find the text of it. I used to be able to quote it, but I suddenly can't remember it. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, of the press, of the right, so on and so forth. First sentence of the First Amendment. No law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. And was it the 13th Amendment or the 14th Amendment that eventually basically said all of the states are also bound to this, which means no state or federal government in the United States can do anything that favors one religion over another. We call that concept separation of church and state. Now, you can say that doesn't exist in the Constitution if you'd like, and I counter with gun rights aren't in the Constitution either. Sure, the Second Amendment is in the Constitution, and that talks about gun rights, but gun rights, the words gun rights, aren't in the Constitution, right? Say separation of church and state isn't in the Constitution one more time.
If anyone says that to you, and they're in public office, or serve in any agency in any official capacity, they have to point out exactly where you have violated the Constitution.
First sentence of the First Amendment.
Because you have not, and from this day forward, that phrase should have no power over people of all faiths ever again in America.
Thank you. Okay, how about
Dr. Phil in the background. I love it. And Ben Carson and Paula White. Paula White Kane, married to the singer from Journey. No, the keyboardist from Journey, the band Journey. Yeah. Anyway, Jesus Christ, dude. Well, that whole idea, that concept about separation of church and state not being in the Constitution came from this guy. This is David Barton, and he fancies himself a historian, claims to be a constitutional scholar. Not just a historian, but a constitutional scholar. In reality, he has a bachelor's degree from, I think, Liberty University in divinity studies or something. A fake university, a fake degree in the first place. But you know what? Hey, I know a fuck of a lot about World War II, and I consider myself an expert in some very niche areas of that study, that area of study. I've written multiple books about it. I'm not saying you can't be an expert in something unless you go to school. But he lies about the Constitution regularly and spreads disinformation about it. So I can't even tell if the dude's an expert. I have no idea because the shit that he says about it is so factually wrong. I have to assume he's not an expert in it, because he never shows me anything to indicate he's an expert in it. Listen to what he had to say here. This is June 1st, 2016. Oh, and by the way, this is one of the, I believe he's the leader of the largest Trump super PAC in the country. It was originally intended for Ted Cruz in 2016. When Ted Cruz dropped out, it went to Donald Trump with David Barton at the head. Siri, turn on living room air conditioner. All right, check this out.
So say there's some religion.
Sorry, let me turn it down a bit here. 1 second.
So say there's some religious activity in public. Maybe somebody wants to pray over their lunch at school and they're told they can't do that. And they say, oh, you can't do that because of separation of church and state.
Wait, who the fuck would say that? Like, nobody cares if you pray over your lunch in school. Literally not one human being gives a fuck.
Is that what separation of church and state really means?
No!
They will say yes. Here's the way you respond. Number one, where does that phrase come from? And when they say the Constitution, you say, would you please read it for me? Because when they go there, they'll never find it.
Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or the prohibition of the free exercise thereof. Something like that. First sentence of the First Amendment is about the separation of church and state. It is in the Constitution. Either accept that or accept that gun rights aren't in the Constitution. You can't have both, or you're a hypocritical fucking idiot. But we already knew that.
And when they say the Constitution, you say, would you please read it for me? Because when they go there, they'll never find it. It does not appear anywhere in the Constitution. And the second thing you do is, wait, we just read the Constitution. It says Congress shall make no law. How does a kid praying over their lunch mean the same as Congress?
It doesn't, first of all. But second, again, the 13th or the 14th Amendment, I think the 13th maybe, made the Constitution apply to all of the states, and all of the judicial precedents that evolved from that combination of amendments leads to the government not favoring one religion over another. That's what it is, obviously. It's a whole area of law, a whole study that exists in the legal world, which my wife is an expert on, that area of law, as a matter of fact, as somebody with a Juris Doctor at JD.
Making a law. And the third thing you ask them is, and by the way, if praying over your lunch is so bad, why did we do it for 180 years under the Constitution, and it's only been in recent years that we have not done that?
Okay, well, let me actually find out about that real fast just to see what he's talking about here. Give me a second. But in the meantime, praying over your lunch isn't bad. Nobody gives a fuck if you want to pray over your lunch. No students have been prevented from praying over their lunches at any point. Like, not in the past 180 years, not before or after that. Never has a student ever been prevented from praying over their lunch. Or a teacher. Nobody gives a fuck if these people are praying over their lunches. You know what has been banned, though? Teachers forcing students to pray over their lunches. Teachers forcing students to read from the Bible. That's been banned. Students are perfectly free to read from the Bible to their heart's content in school, or pray, or whatever. It's about not forcing things on people, obviously. Yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that.
Did we just invent separation, church and state? No, it's been there from the beginning, but we've twisted it to mean something that it doesn't mean. So if you
wait, whoa! I'm sorry. One more time. What was that, David?
And it's only been in recent years that for 180 years under the Constitution, and it's only been in recent years that we have not done that. Did we just invent separation, church and state? No, it's been there from the beginning.
Well, how about that? You just admitted the whole fucking thing, didn't you? What was this video for? If you're going to deny the existence of separation of church and state, why the fuck did you make this video? You said it doesn't exist in the Constitution. Then you said it is in the Constitution. Well, which is it?
We have not done that. Did we just invent separation of church and state? No, it's been there from the beginning.
The answer is he's lying. He was lying the entire fucking time. That's what his whole brand is, lying.
We've twisted it to mean something that it doesn't mean. So if you ask them those three questions, you can win your argument.
Yeah, win your argument. Fantastic. Anyway, that's the guy where this argument, quote unquote, came from, that separation of church and state isn't in the Constitution. And he's lying. It's a lie. It's a flat out, bald-faced fucking lie that they've been telling for who knows how long. David Barton has actually made up other shit. He talks about the Black Robe Regiment a lot. The Black Robe Regiment. Group of pastors who wear their black pastor's garb, you know? And they preach their sermons from their pulpits. And when the church service ends, they pull off their black robes and they're wearing military garb underneath. They're wearing the military outfit underneath. And they go out back of the church with their congregation and teach them to shoot in preparation for the Revolutionary War. That's fake. All of it is fake. The entire thing that I just recited was made up by David Barton in his 1995 book or somewhere in there. I don't remember when his book was written. It was so full of bullshit that the publisher pulled it from the shelves. You can look at Google word search or whatever and look up Black Robe Regiment. It didn't start appearing in any writing at all in the United States or anywhere until David Barton's book came out. So he lies constantly about shit. He is a propagandist for the right on the subject of church-state separation. Now listen to some of his other lies here. Ooh, sorry, that's super loud. Let me turn it down.
This is a book with 2 sermons from...
This is his son, Tim Barton.
John Wise. These sermons were actually preached back in the early 1700s, but this was reprinted in 1772 because in one of these 2 sermons, John Wise, and I quote, says, "All men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights." That's in the Declaration. This is also where they got the idea. He taught that God's preferred form of government was the consent of the governed. He taught, and this is in these sermons, these 2 sermons, he taught that...
Okay, so who the fuck is John Wise? I'm sorry, I've never heard this before. Declaration of Independence was written before the Constitution or before the United States was even a government, obviously. It was the declaration that we sent to the king to tell him we're not part of England anymore. We're our own separate entity. Now we're going to war with you, basically. And the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence famously has that line, all men are created equal, endowed by our blah, blah, blah. And what is it? What's the line? I gotta know. All men are endowed by the Creator. Wait. I suddenly cannot remember. It's slipping right out of my head. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, so on and so forth. So what did they mean by that? Project 2025 videos, training videos, leaked a while back. And in those training videos, I have it. I don't want to play it right now because it's too long. They basically say what they meant at that time was not that God granted us these rights, but that these rights are inherent to every human being and they exist outside of government. They're not granted by government. If they're granted by government, they can be taken away by government. They're granted by something outside. That's the point. Regarding this stuff about John Wise, he was a genuine Congregationalist minister in Ipswich, Massachusetts. He really did write The Church's Quarrel Espoused, 1710, and A Vindication of the Government of New England Churches, 1717, and all that other stuff. He really did write for that. He really did argue for natural equality, government by consent, and natural rights. Yes, absolutely. Here's what was invented by the Bartons. Barton claims Wise's sermon says, word for word, all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. That phrase is not in Wise's writings. That was completely, fully, and totally invented by David and Tim Barton. Fabricated. They're lying about it. It is wild to watch people so brazenly fabricate historical information and present it as though it was truth. And hold on. There was one more thing I wanted to mention. What was it? It was about... Oh, one more thing about the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence was written in... it was signed in 1776, officially, and then sent to King George... in the second week of August 1776. The Constitution was not ratified until 1787. 12 years later, give or take. 12 years later. We didn't have a U.S. government until 12 years later, and that was the very beginning of it. We didn't form out our entire understanding of church-state separation and everything else for an additional 10 years after that. We're talking like 1801, before everything was kind of fully formed out in the government. So the Declaration of Independence, yeah, it contains some stuff about being endowed by our creator to blah, 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 whatever. That has no bearing on what our government eventually became. Even if it didn't mean, or even if they were talking about God as like some important figure, which it wasn't. It doesn't matter. It was like decades later before the government existed.
The consent of the governed. He taught, and this is in these sermons, these two sermons, he taught that taxation without representation is tyranny. Those are all things that show up in the Declaration. This was reprinted by the Founding Fathers.
So, yeah, most of what he just said was fabricated nonsense that he just made up right off the top of his head, seemingly. Did he plan this? Did he plan to lie like this? I'm not even sure. The closest that Wise's writings actually get is a paraphrase of the Roman jurist Ulpian. By a natural right, all men are born free. A nature having set all men upon a level and made them equals, no servitude or subjection can be conceived without inequality. So, same idea, but completely different words is the point. Also, the Jefferson link. There's no evidence that Jefferson ever read Wise. A search of his library reveals nothing by John Wise, and his voluminous correspondence has no mention of him. When Jefferson himself listed influences on the Declaration, he named Aristotle, Cicero, Locke, Sidney, not Wise, not sermons. So these people literally just lie and lie and lie. That is their whole bit, and that shit is so infuriating to me. Having gone through archives and histories myself of World War II era Germany, of contemporary European history, and seeing all the lies told about the era, it just eats me up inside. It is so infuriating. I cannot imagine what 1700s America scholars feel about these two dummies. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. Just writing this down. 225 to 250. All right, awesome. Let me just write this down. I'm sorry, 1 second here. Main. Far side. Awesome. All right. This is Tim and David Barton. Tim is the younger one. This is Andrew. Never mind. I'm not even going to bother. Hang on. This is Tim Barton. He is a right-wing extremist nutcase, pseudo-historian, claims to be a historian on the Constitution. He's completely full of it. Doesn't have the degrees necessary to even call himself that. Doesn't have the knowledge necessary to speak on this. He lies about the Constitution constantly. But I want to go through a little bit of what he's saying here because it's actually psychotic. Let me find the best spot. Let's just kind of jump in here and see what's being said. This is Andrew Womack. It's his show, and he's insane too. Even worse than them, probably.
Things and showing them, like these people that were...
Sorry, let me fix the audio volume.
We're saying Palestine from the river.
Okay, there we go.
Historical things and showing them, like these people that were saying Palestine from the river to the sea, and they're advocating the elimination of Israel, and they're embracing the Palestinians. And if many of them are homosexuals,
Right.
many of them are all these things, if they were to go there, they'd be
Correct.
killed in a heartbeat.
Correct.
They don't even know what they're saying. Useful idiots.
Correct.
Correct, he says. Okay. I'm not like advocating in favor of Islam at all. I think Islam is destructive as fucking shit. I would love to live in a world where everybody converted out of Islam and Christianity and Hinduism and all of it. All of it. What I don't like, though, specifically, is how brutal and evil the country of Israel is acting toward Palestinians. Innocent, civilian Palestinians. Didn't do shit to anybody. And they're having their homes absolutely destroyed. I don't care what the average belief is about any demographic. Genocide, wrong. Can we not all agree on that? Genocide, bad. How the fuck am I here right now arguing that genocide shouldn't be taking place?
One of the things, though, Dad, I've heard you say this before, and I don't know that you would agree, so let me throw this out there, and then you just run with it. So one of the things that is interesting when the temple was torn down and the temple gets rebuilt, the older men who knew what had been saw what was there now, and they grieved for what they had lost.
He's talking about in 586 BCE. In the year 600 BCE, Nebuchadnezzar of the Babylonian Empire came through the Middle East and demanded tribute from Israel and Judea, two little twin countries there next to each other. If they paid tribute, he would allow them to stay in power. 4 years later, I think this was from 604 to 600 BCE because it was counting backwards. I believe after 4 years, they decided to do a coup and try to stop paying the tribute and take them on. Nebuchadnezzar absolutely wrecked Israel. Killed the king. Who was the king? Zechariah or Zephaniah, maybe? Anyway, killed the king, destroyed Solomon's temple, which had stood there since the year 1000 BCE, 600 years earlier, something like that. Or 400 years earlier, something like that. So destroys the temple. This is 586 BCE now, when he sweeps back in and destroys the temple. So that was the first temple destroyed. 515 BCE. This chronology is all really important for Jehovah's Witnesses theology. That's why I know all of this. 515 BCE, King Xerxes orders it rebuilt. If I'm not mistaken, it's rebuilt, and then it stood until 70 CE, like 70 years after Jesus' birth, basically. And that's when it was destroyed again. Now there's this whole underlying belief in Judaism about how they need to rebuild the third temple. And Christian Zionists believe once the third temple is built, Jesus will return. So they're trying to get the third temple built as well. Unfortunately, there's a mosque sitting there on the Temple Mount now, where the temple used to sit. And it's an extremely important mosque, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. You cannot tear that down without starting literal World War III. Literal Christian versus Muslim world war. So Israel has been talking about and trying to tear down the Al-Aqsa Mosque for a while, but they don't have the twig and berries, if you will. That's what he's talking about here.
Gets rebuilt. That is interesting. When the temple was torn down and the temple gets rebuilt, the older men who knew what had been saw what was there now, and they grieved for what they had lost. The younger people recognizing we didn't have something and now we have, this is amazing. And there was a bit of a difference of response and reaction. And I do think that part of what we will see restored might not be fully what was there before, but it will be cause for rejoicing. And ultimately, we would love to see it all.
Bro, what is he saying? Like, does any of this make any sense to anybody at all? Is he just rambling right now?
Restored. There's just a lot of work to do, and I don't know how quickly we'll get there, but that's my initial thought of where we are. God is clearly on the move. We're in an awakening, and we don't know how it's going to resolve and what it looks like at the end, but I think it might not be exactly what we saw. So if we're expecting to have the next George Washington and John Adams, I think we might be disappointed, but I think God is going to help establish something that we can rejoice at if we have perspective to realize we have something we didn't have.
I'm so goddamn fucking confused right now. What did any of that mean? I didn't understand a fucking word.
Yeah, it was interesting when the Dobbs decision came down that overturned Roe v. Wade. Is exactly when that scene from the temple was really imprinted on, because there were so many young people cheering, and I saw all these media clips of particularly young crowds cheering, and they are so thrilled because now 26 states will ban abortion. Yeah, but I remember when it was all 50 states banning abortion.
You do? Okay. Did all 50 states ever ban abortion? So this is pretty clear. This is an extremely unpopular position. He wants to ban abortion nationwide, a federal abortion ban for all states. Good luck with that. I mean, I said the same thing about removing Roe v. Wade in the first place, so.
And the pill that they're sending out there are actually increased abortions now before Dobbs was overturned.
Correct.
I mean,
well, it's not just the pill that's increasing abortions. He's saying this as though people are trying to stick Trump, that people are trying to stick it to Trump. They're trying to get one over on him by, increasing abortion. Here, take this, Trump. We don't like you, so we're going to get an abortion. Additional abortions just to fuck you over. Are you fucking kidding me? These people are live in a delusion.
So it's the kind of thing, it depends on what your perspective is. The perspective they had of the last 30 years, that's a great step.
Yep.
But the perspective I had of more years than that, that's a step, but it's not near where we used to be.
Yeah.
And I think at some point America's going to have...
Benjamin Franklin in his documents had instructions for how to get an abortion. You know what else had instructions to abort a baby? The Bible. Numbers 5:11-23 explains how to get an abortion. Go to the priest, mix up this concoction they call bitter water, you drink it. If you cheated on your husband, you get an abortion. So why are these people so opposed to abortion? You know why? This is actually a manufactured issue that was manufactured, I think, in the 70s or the 80s, maybe, for political reasons. The people who created this issue didn't give a fuck about abortions. They didn't care even a little bit. But they knew they could whip people into a blood frenzy over this one issue, so they leveraged it to their advantage. What would the world look like if it had been the Democrats that leveraged that to their advantage instead? Can you imagine Republicans arguing in favor of abortion access? How wild would that be?
Have to get back to being very individualistic rather than groups. And let me throw it, this is probably the biggest thing that I am concerned about, and concern is not the right word, that I would like to see addressed. And that is that for the first 3 centuries of America, from the time of the Pilgrims, which we covered them and what they did, the time of the Pilgrims coming up until about 1900, our whole emphasis in education was teaching students how to think. And since then, it's been teaching them how to learn.
Well, actually, interestingly enough, we didn't have an education system before the 1930s, even the 1940s. Our modern understanding of compulsory education for young children was actually created in Prussia, believe it or not, like in the Germany region, before World War I believe. And it really started taking root in the U.S. in the early 1900s, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just verify that. Let me just give me 1 second here. Hold on. Okay. It happened state by state over about 66 years. 1852, Massachusetts passed the first compulsory school attendance law. There was a common school movement there, explicitly modeled in part on the Prussian system. I thought it was way later than that, but yeah. 1918, Mississippi became the last state to pass one. So by 1918, every state had compulsory attendance on the books. We're talking the last 100 years. He said he studied, what was it? He said he studied education over the past 3 centuries. That's what he said, right? Are you fucking kidding me? Just lying out his ass. He does nothing but lie, lie, lie.
For them and what they did, the time of the Pilgrims coming up until about 1900. Our whole emphasis in education was teaching students how to think. And since then, it's been teaching them how to learn.
There were universities, to be fair. There have been universities for many, many years, a long, long time. Centuries, millennia. You know, Greece had universities, I believe. But compulsory education system, which is what he's implying here, did not exist.
Teaching them what to think.
And that's what learn is. You will find that prior to the 1910, 20 kind of frame, you cannot find a multiple choice test. You can't find a fill in the blank.
No fucking shit. Wow, you can't? You can't find any of those tests before the school system fucking existed? Knock me over with a feather.
You can't find a true false. So, all right, kids, time for a test. Did I, the teacher, tell you A, B, C, or D? Did I, the teacher, tell you this, true or false? And it's all about spitting back what someone has told you.
This is genuinely, like, slimy, right? This is genuinely dirty, what he just tried to pull here. What a colossal fucking scumbag.
You're not a self-feeder. And just going back, that's why I think media is so effective today. That's why Marxism is so effective today, because you hear sound bites and you've been trained to receive those. And it used to be, as we're told in the scriptures, prove all things and hold fast that which is true.
Oh, look. He quoted it wrong, and they put the correct quote on the thing. Prove all things, hold fast what is good, not true, dipshit. Was that intentional? He's intentionally falsifying information with the intent to deceive here, right? Elsewhere. Is this another case of that? Anyway, he's just fucking vile and disgusting, and there's nothing that bothers me more than people who lie about history intentionally. Anyway, tell me what you think in the comments. All right, I got to get out of here. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. It's been fun. It's been long. Old high school nickname. Fun and long. All right, I'll talk to you guys later on, all right? I'll talk to you guys on Wednesday on my Unfiltered channel at 11 a.m. All right, later, everybody.